Hey, what's up everybody, and welcome back to News Dose. And we're always talking about Xbox acquisitions. Xbox has acquired a lot of studios in recent years, including that big Bethesda acquisition last year, but it doesn't look like they're quite ready to slow down. But instead of looking for more studios, they might have their eyes set on some big franchises. Yeah, this might actually be happening, so we're going to be talking about that today. Beyond that, we also have some different leaks to talk about today. One trend in recent years has been Disney licensing out their IP to big AAA developers. This has been an interesting combination. I mean, we've seen things like Spider-Man and the Avengers, but it looks like they have something else planned with a very interesting developer, and we'll go over that today, as well as yet another Nintendo game leaking out online. So yeah, we have a lot to go over, and let's just go ahead and get right into it. And to start things off, let's talk about Bloodstained Ritual of the Night, which is one of the more successful games that released from Kickstarter. This was a Koji Igarashi developed game, which is well known for his work on Castlevania, and Bloodstained Ritual of the Night in many ways is a spiritual successor to Castlevania. So yeah, there was a lot of excitement for this game. I mean, if Konami's not going to make a new Castlevania game, at least we have Koji Igarashi, the mastermind behind Castlevania, working on a Castlevania-like game. And, Bloodstained Ritual of the Night ended up being a really good game. It was both well received from critics and fans alike, and it ended up being a pretty big success. So it shouldn't come as a major surprise, but they have now confirmed that a Bloodstained Ritual of the Night sequel is in early planning. Now, do keep in mind this is in early planning, so don't expect a new release anytime soon, but they did confirm that they are looking into that Ritual of the Night sequel. As you all probably know, I am a big fan of Metroidvania-style games, and I do think that Bloodstained Ritual of the Night is one of the better Metroidvania games to release in recent years. So to have a sequel is absolutely fantastic news. Now, with that said, Artplay did confirm that they're currently focusing on completing Bloodstained Ritual of the Night's upcoming content. So again, don't expect an imminent release of the sequel or anything like that, but, just knowing that it's getting a sequel is music to my ears. Moving on, we need to talk about PlayStation and their cross-generation approach once again. Sony's been under a lot of scrutiny in the last few days as they announced a few of their PlayStation 5 exclusives as cross-generation titles. That means, yes, they will be available on both the PS5 and the PS4. Now, this includes Horizon Forbidden West, God of War Ragnarok, and Gran Turismo 7. Now, to be fair, Horizon Forbidden West was already confirmed to be a PlayStation 4 title alongside the PS5 version, and then with God of War Ragnarok, they didn't officially confirm the platforms for that game. So them being cross-generation games wasn't really a major surprise, but when it comes to Gran Turismo 7, that one did surprise fans a little bit more because that game in specific was advertised as a PlayStation 5 exclusive. And that's the thing, Gran Turismo is a massive franchise. I think some fans forget that sometimes because racing games aren't nearly as talked about as what they used to be, but back in the PlayStation 2 days, Gran Turismo was PlayStation's biggest franchise. They sold a ton of copies on the PlayStation 2, and to this day, Gran Turismo is still very popular and has a lot of hardcore fans. So yeah, absolutely, there's going to be people out there that buys the PlayStation 5 for Gran Turismo 7 alone, especially when they're advertising it as a PS5 exclusive. So it all of a sudden being announced for the PS4 for some people does rub them the wrong way. And, I can completely understand that. PlayStation has been less than forthcoming when it comes to cross-generation games, and truthfully, they kind of flat out lied about it. Quote unquote, we believe in generations. Yeah, that wasn't true at all, as we've seen with Spider-Man Miles Morales, Sackboy Big Adventure, Horizon Forbidden West, and now God of War Ragnarok and Gran Turismo 7. But with that said, it does not appear that PlayStation actually intentionally lied about Gran Turismo 7 being a PlayStation 5 exclusive. And the reason I say that is because according to VGC, the Video Game Chronicles, they understand the decision to release a PS4 version was made only fairly recently. Now that's actually really interesting. First up, it does appear that Gran Turismo 7 was originally planned to be a PS5 exclusive. So that much is evident here. But for Sony to go back to the drawing board and say, we need a PS4 version as well, is very interesting to me. And the reason I say that is because it's obvious as to the reason why. As we all know, the PlayStation 5 has been very difficult to get. The PS5 is in high demand, and it's been hard for PlayStation to meet that initial demand. They've been battling semiconductor issues all year long, and they just cannot manufacture enough units to support their fans, and then on top of that, you have scalpers, buying up these consoles as quick as they possibly can. So, there's just been problems getting these consoles out to the players' hands. And I'm absolutely positive that plays a major part in PlayStation deciding to put some of their games onto the PlayStation 4 as well. It just makes business sense. As for being available on both, I still view this as a good thing. Yes, I know some hardcore fans are going to be a little upset that they technically lost a PlayStation 5 exclusive, but there's still 116 million PlayStation 4 consoles out there, and it's not only been hard to transition from the PS4 to the PS5, as we've evidently been seeing all year long with these manufacturing issues, but yes, games scale up and down fairly easy. It's different with Ratchet & Clank Rift Apart because that particular game was developed with the solid-state drive in mind. With Gran Turismo 7, though, I think that you could probably just scale that game down, and yeah, it would probably work perfectly fine on the PlayStation 4. Obviously the PS5 will be the better version, but, I see no reason that you can't get it on the PlayStation 4 as well. So yeah, I don't see this as some kind of major problem, but it is interesting to see Sony go back to the drawing board and say, hey, we need this PlayStation 5 exclusive to come to the PS4, and I think that that is a direct reflection on the current climate with, getting these PlayStation 5 consoles in the hands of players. Let's talk about Xbox, though, and some more acquisitions. Yeah, I know we talk about Xbox acquisitions on the channel a lot, as it always seems like Xbox is looking to acquire more studios. They've got Obsidian Entertainment, they got Playground Games, they got Double Fine, and somehow they even managed to get Bethesda last year. So, you always have to be out and look out for what they're looking to acquire next. But interestingly enough, it doesn't sound like that they're just looking for studios anymore, but instead, they're also looking to acquire some big existing IPs. Now, this is just a rumor for the time being, but this is according to ACG on the Defining Duke podcast, where he says, what I'm hearing versus what could happen, I'm just going to go with what I'm hearing, which is that there is going to be a game purchase. And that alone doesn't seem to be too interesting, but earlier in the show, apparently, he also said that he is confident that Microsoft will purchase some existing IPs and that they may get announced at E3 this year. Now, something to keep in mind is that this is from a podcast that is not live yet. Apparently, it is only available to Patreon members as of this moment. And because of that, it's hard to confirm what he actually said, and with that said, this could just be a rumor that's being blown out of proportion, and you do need to keep that in mind going forward. But because this rumor has been making the rounds today, I thought it would be at least interesting to talk about if he actually did say that Microsoft has acquired some IP, whether that's announced at E3 or not. That is highly interesting. Now, you have to keep in mind this is just a rumor for the time being, and you have to take that with a huge grain of salt. But I don't really think that we can rule out the possibility that, yes, Microsoft is looking to acquire some big franchises. I mean, they've spent billions of dollars acquiring different studios, so what's to say they wouldn't put some money down for some well-established IP? Well-established IP is critical for the game industry, especially when you have a subscription service like Xbox Game Pass. So yeah, absolutely, I could see Microsoft looking to acquire some well-established IP. But that's where the questions really come in. What could Microsoft possibly look to acquire? Now, the last time we saw them acquire a game IP was with Gears of War, I want to say back in 2014. And Gears of War was a no-brainer decision for Microsoft, as Gears of War was huge for the Xbox 360, so you might as well bring it over to the Xbox One and now the Xbox Series. Gears has been massive for Xbox since the Xbox 360 days, so that wasn't like some major surprise. But outside of Gears, what could they really acquire? And I think that's where things get really interesting, because there's one specific publisher that has well-known IP that doesn't really do anything with them, and that is Konami. Konami has a lot of big franchises such as Castlevania. They have Silent Hill, and they have Metal Gear Solid. These are three massive franchises that fans absolutely want to see return. And interestingly enough, there has been a rumor going around that Xbox is looking to do something with the Metal Gear Solid franchise. Yeah, this was a big rumor that popped up a couple months ago that Xbox was looking to work with Hideo Kojima on maybe possibly a Metal Gear Solid game. And that would be massive alone. But now we're also hearing rumors that Xbox is actually looking to acquire already established IP. And if you start to put things together, yeah, maybe they might be looking to acquire the Metal Gear Solid IP flat out. I mean, again, Konami's not exactly doing anything with Metal Gear Solid, so who's to say they haven't at least tried? Now, I'm not saying that Microsoft has acquired Metal Gear Solid, but, I do find it interesting that both of these rumors have popped up in the last couple months. But as ACG did suggest, if they did acquire something, they could possibly announce it at this year's E3, and that would be kind of similar to what they did a few years ago whenever they announced all those studio acquisitions at E3. That really got fans super excited, so if they do something similar but with well-established IP instead, that could really blow the roof off of E3. We'll see what happens with all this, and again, there's no guarantee. This is just a rumor for the time being, and even if they did acquire something, it doesn't necessarily mean that they will announce it at E3, but definitely something very interesting to think about. Let me know, though, in the comments below, if Xbox is looking to acquire some well-established IP, do you have any guesses as to what they would be? Let me know in the comments below. Now, we also have a few different leaks to talk about, and the first one being with the Nintendo Switch. I know this is not the Switch Pro, we still have not seen that thing. It's kind of like LeBron James in round 2, it's just not there. But with that said, there was a game that leaked out online, and that is Shin Megami Tensei 5. Shin Megami Tensei 5 was first announced years ago for the Switch, and fans have been waiting a long time to get some kind of an official update for that game. We keep hoping that it's going to release next year, and then next year comes, and then we hope for the year after that, and we just keep repeating the cycle. But that might finally end this year, as the Japanese website may have accidentally released some new information for Shin Megami Tensei 5 ahead of E3. This included some new details about the story of the game and the upcoming release date, which will be November 11th. Now, this being a Japanese website, this was, of course, the Japanese release date. And even though, yes, this game was previously confirmed for a simultaneous worldwide release, it could possibly release a day or two later in the West. So instead of it releasing on November 11th, it could possibly be the 12th or 13th, depending on what region you live in. Regardless, though, this has been a big year for Shin Megami fans. I mean, if you really think about it, earlier this year, Persona 5 Strikers released in the West, I believe, in February. Then last month, you got Shin Megami Tensei 3 Nocturne for the Switch and PS4, and now it looks like you'll also be getting Shin Megami Tensei 5 sometime in 2021, and possibly November 11th. Yeah, that's great news for Shin Megami fans, and I'm kind of hoping we also hear about some Persona ports throughout the year. I really don't know why Sega and Atlus hasn't already done this, but especially with Nintendo, that console would be perfect for the Persona franchise. Nintendo is massive over in Japan, and Persona is big in Japan, so the combination just seems like the perfect fit. But overall, I would like to see Persona be ported to not only Nintendo, but also Xbox and PC. Regardless, like I said before, big year for Shin Megami fans, and I hope everybody's excited for Shin Megami Tensei 5. As for this other leak, we also got some info on some upcoming games from 2K. Now, this leak is apparently coming from Reddit, which typically I would ignore because Reddit's not exactly the greatest source in the world, but Jason Schreier, which is a great source, did confirm this information over on his Twitter page, though he did point out that that doesn't necessarily mean that they will be announced at this year's E3. But it does look like all this is in development, and this includes NBA 2K22, which has Dirk Nowitzki as the year's cover athlete. I like Dirk, so I'm okay with that. Then you have Wonderlands, which is a Borderlands spin-off title featuring Tiny Tina. Then you have a new Fire Axis game, which is apparently a new turn-based action game using Marvel property. It's being described as XCOM with Marvel heroes, which is very interesting and something we're going to come back to here in just a moment. And then you have codenamed Volt, which is a new action game that apparently is in really early development. The logo looks similar to the Fallout logo, and it's being described as a Cthulhu meets Saints Row type of game. That one's interesting to say the least, but yeah, the one that's garnering the most attention is that Fire Axis game. You know, XCOM with Marvel heroes actually seems like a fairly interesting idea. I mean, first off, XCOM is an excellent game, and we might as well just go ahead and say that. And I think the combination of XCOM with Marvel heroes could actually work out. This could end up being a lot of fun, but one thing I find very interesting is what Disney's actually doing in the game industry. As I said at the beginning of the video, Disney has been licensing out a lot of their IP out to all these different AAA developers. We saw that with Insomniac Games and Spider-Man. We also saw the Avengers and Crystal Dynamic. They have Indiana Jones in development over at Bethesda. And there's also rumors that Guardians of the Galaxy is in development at Eidos Montreal. And that's not even considering all the Star Wars games that they apparently have in development. So Disney is going big into the game industry. So we probably are going to see a lot of these Marvel-related IP come this generation. If you do like Marvel-related IP or Disney in general, then that is very exciting. And, you know, there is a lot of potential with this. And I will say this. If there is one IP that Disney could bring over to gaming, the one that I would most like to see is Daredevil. I don't know, I've always liked Daredevil, especially that Netflix show. I was so upset whenever they canceled that, but, you know, it is what it is. If we could get a game related to Daredevil, though, yeah, I would be in for that. But let me know in the comments below, what do you think about Disney entering the game industry the way they have been? Do you like that they're licensing out all their IP to all these different AAA developers? Let me know in the comments below. And while we're on the topic, we might as well go ahead and look at the poll of the day, where I asked you, if the rumor's true, would you be interested in a Guardians of the Galaxy game developed by Eidos Montreal? You know, this is a very talented studio, which has worked on games like Deus Ex and Shadow of the Tomb Raider, so, you know, the combination would be interesting, and 49% of you did say yes. And like I said yesterday, I know Guardians of the Galaxy is a big IP, so I knew there would be some excitement surrounding a game like this. Now, for somebody like me, I'm actually not super excited for something like this because, I mean, honestly, I've never really watched Guardians of the Galaxy. I know that's probably going to upset a few people, but I'm not really a big movie buff. I mean, when it comes to games, yeah, I love games, good. Sports, good. Movies, I don't know. I'm just not really big into movies because I would prefer a show or book. I want characters and storylines to develop a little bit more, and it's hard to do that in a 90-minute film. It's just hard for me to watch movies that much anymore, so yeah, I just never have watched Guardians of the Galaxy. But at the same time, I'm really happy for those who do like this franchise. If this does end up happening, I'm very excited for you all, and I might give this one a try myself and just absolutely love it. You know, there's probably a reason people like this IP so much, so, you know, I want to be optimistic and, you know, give this one a try. Like I said earlier, Eidos Montreal is very talented, so if anybody's going to make a good game out of this IP, yeah, it'd probably be them. So, yeah, let's look forward to that game. Anyways, though, that's it for this episode, but if you liked the video, don't forget to bell notification and subscribe button for more content just like this. Also, if you would like to support the channel through Patreon, thank you for making this content possible. Peace out.